everybody, and welcome to Best Podcast Ever, where three idiots you don't know talk about a hobby you've never heard of. Hey, Mike, is Kevin here this week?
Nope.
I wonder how many more images of Kevin I can find where I get to blank out his face.
Yeah, that's a good question. Or, pictures of Kevin in ridiculous Halloween costumes. We had we had my Crash Dummy costume last week.
That, and I did get the artist's rendition of you.
That was good. Yeah. When did you get a picture of that? Because that's on my fridge. It's been on my fridge since my friend drew it like 5 years ago.
It's on Facebook. So
okay.
That's always where I'm finding pictures of everyone.
Yeah, I guess I used it as a profile picture for a while.
So, and to keep with the totally anonymous nature of Best Team Ever, I can put up the "We're a Problem" image here.
Yeah.
Of the full team all blanked out.
Yeah.
So that's where those pictures come from, and I really hope you guys who do watch this have been enjoying the added pictures. For those of you who just listened to this in an audio form, if you find us on YouTube, there are picture jokes that are happening.
Yeah, in fact, probably our best material at this point is the sight gags, so...
Good thing we're a podcast.
Yeah, good thing we're a podcast because we didn't want to figure out what to put on the screen in our video series, and now that's what we're doing anyway. So we punted on the problem and punted it directly into our own face.
Yeah, so now Brian is trolling the internet for funny images to put on the screen, although I learned my lesson from last time, which is don't say, "Hey, Brian, get a picture of the 1980 whoever Rangers. Go ahead and put his captain on the screen right now." Don't say things like that.
Yeah.
Because then I have to go find it, and now I have to think of a gag for that later, so that you're looking at something that's not just the title screen.
Yep. Yeah, I happened to notice that we were talking about martini liveries, and there was a Rothman's car on the screen.
I also misspelled the word chrome, if anyone's keeping count at home.
I thought I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, well, it wasn't up for very long.
No. Consider those things Easter eggs, and since I've now mentioned two holidays, Halloween, which just passed, and Easter, we're moving ahead towards the end of the calendar year, and that means it's time to start buying gifts for people you don't like. So why not slot cars?
Yes, one of my very favorite moments of working at NJ Hobby was always having a parent, normally a father if we're being honest, come in and say, "Hi, I have $600 to spend on my kid. Talk me out of buying him an Xbox." And that was my life for 9 years. Yeah. I did the math on that. I was working in some aspect at NJ Hobby for 9 years. So let's go ahead and we'll call this the holiday preparation episode for if you're going to buy a set for your kid, if you're lying to yourself and you're buying a set for yourself, but you're going to say it's for your kid, or, you know what? Screw it, it's the holidays and you want slot cars. You're going to go out and buy them. What should you buy? What have we dealt with in the past? What did Brian, with his staggering number of years working at a hobby shop, accomplish and sell people?
Yeah.
Well, I can answer that first one quickly. I didn't accomplish much.
Well, who among us has ever accomplished anything? I mean, let's be honest.
Of me, you, Kevin, and the 7 people who watch this? Yeah, I'm sure the 7 people who watch this have done a lot better controlling their lives than we have.
Well, they found this and made a conscious decision to listen to it, which calls their judgment into question. But
and now we have 6 fans. All right.
Bye.
So I actually come from an interesting side of this because growing up in the hobby shop and growing up selling these, whenever we wanted to race slot cars, we always had the store track.
Right.
So I always did a ton of cars, and I always sold a lot, but I didn't do a ton of testing. Now, Mike, I'm sure as even our most humblest and scatterbrained of viewers know, your first track was the Tyco.
Yes, the Tyco Richard Petty Racing, which I think I've mentioned in almost every episode.
Yeah.
Definitely mentioned it when we were talking at great length about Tyco recently. Yeah, it was your, like most HO, starter level sets, it was a figure 8 because obviously it has to be a figure 8 with the Richard Petty Buick and the Monroe, Mr. Monroe.
Mr. Yellow and blue thing.
James Monroe.
Yeah.
Monroe's Shocks and Struts car, which was number Monroe.
So
I mean that's your typical slot car, entree to slot car racing on the HO side is going to be a small set like that.
And just to kind of step in as somebody who I don't have to have owned one of those to tell you you're picking up the car more than you're playing with it.
Yeah, no, I mean, when you start with a small layout and, what counts as a small layout for 132nd is going to be bigger than what counts as a small layout for HO.
Yeah.
But, basically, I mean, even I'm glancing over at my
best track
ever, which is a relatively small layout, but it's massive compared to what you can build with what's in a basic Carrera set. You're just going to be... You don't have enough room to run at all on a set like that a lot of the time. And you're just going to be, chasing cars across the room because you're probably going to set it up on the floor. And
first of all, you're probably 8.
Right.
You're probably setting it up on the floor. You probably have no idea what you're doing. You're not oiling anything.
Right.
And you're probably just flooring it and not understanding why it doesn't work like the commercial.
Right.
Back when Tyco had commercials.
Right. In a magical world where there are commercials for slot cars.
Still, yeah.
But yeah, pretty much. I mean, the nice thing, I'm thinking back, because I actually got my first slot car set when I was, I believe, 4.
Which is not what you should do, but we'll get into that in a moment.
Yeah, no, that's not age appropriate for a normal kid. I was a weird kid, as I still am at age 32. So it was a perfectly appropriate toy for me at age 4, but in general, probably not. But the 440 Magnum, and they were not even 440 X2, the 440 Magnum chassis in the 2 narrow pan NASCARs that came with that set, basically could not go fast enough, especially with the sponge tires they inexplicably had. You couldn't really go fast enough to crash that much on that figure 8 because you were just never getting up to speed anyway. But... the tires got dirty, the track got dirty, and eventually, you were crashing more than not.
So you're still going to be able to find that type of set. Your best bet is to go Tomy these days.
Right.
They do. I think it's called Infinity, and it's literally just a figure 8. It's about $100, and do yourself a favor and do not buy it. I mean, nothing's changed. The cars are faster now.
Right.
Mega G, what are they called? Mega G Plus?
Yeah, I guess that's...
Because they were Mega Gs and they were Mega G Plus.
The Mega G Plus is the one with the green can motor.
Yeah. Which they should have just made instead of the normal Mega G, but whatever.
Right.
And you're going to run on that track for maybe 5 seconds at a time, and even if you get good at running it, you're going to get bored super quickly because it consists of, I think, 6 9-inch turns and 2 15-inch straights, and that's your track?
Yeah, that's that's basically, the time-honored starter set.
And back in the days of T-Jets, you could actually have some fun with that.
Right.
Because the cars were slow enough and drifty enough.
Right, that gave you something to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But nowadays, I believe the next step up in HO world, and we'll start it with HO here, would be a set by Tomy called Big Block Battlers. And you'll notice that the price on that jumps immediately. That's like a $300-$400 set.
Is it really?
Yeah, these days.
No. Yeah.
International 18, which I'll go over in a minute.
Yeah, I mean, that was when I built my HO track when I was in high school. I started with the International 18 set, which was, that's great if you're looking to build a bigger layout. That's a great place to start.
International 18 is a 4-lane layout, and of course I will put the image up on screen now so I don't have to give it too much of a introduction, but it is a 4-lane layout, and the reason it's called International 18 is in that box there are 18 different layouts you can make with it in there. And I always like to sell this to people who are not necessarily buying for their kids. This is really more of a gift for yourself at the asking $300-$400 price.
Right.
I'm sure it's more than I think it is these days. I haven't sold it in 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, because when I got it, 15 years ago, it was over $200 then, and everything in the slot car hobby has gone up drastically.
Well, it comes with Mega Gs now.
Right.
It comes with I don't know. I don't think it can do a lap counter yet. That's a problem with 4-lane layouts is lap counters. Right. But it's really good if you have multiple kids and each kid needs their own track. You can, take it apart. Instead of making a medium-sized 4-lane layout, you could make a gigantic
there's a lot of track
2-lane layout.
Yeah.
And 4 cars, 4 controllers, not a bad starter.
Yeah, and it comes, the insert gives you, a diagram of About 18 different layouts that are based on the Formula One schedule from 1992 or so.
Yeah, when the set was made.
Yeah, because the set has been with us for about 25 years now. So they give you the layout to approximate, those 18 tracks. I remember I started trying to build the Spa layout, and it was not compact enough. It was sprawling in different directions, and I couldn't fit it into the room I wanted to do it in. So I went with Monza, and then I just built out from there. I mean, the easy way to expand a slot car track is to just make the straights longer because the curves are going to line up. So that's what I did.
Yeah.
And, I probably over the span of like 3 or 4 years, I built that track to be quite large, and then I completely lost interest in HO slot car racing / didn't live in my parents' house anymore, so now half my mom's basement is a slot car track that nobody uses.
That's more common than you think.
Yep.
So in HO, really there are 3 levels of track these days. There's the figure 8 you're never going to use. There's the big block battlers, which is a good large 2-lane layout. But I think we can both agree if you're buying an HO layout, and chances are if you're buying an HO layout, it's because you remember racing HO cars as a kid. I've never seen anyone come to NJ Hobby, have no history with slot cars, and buy HO.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, if I was... Well, I mean, even now, I would probably not do that. But even, coming to it, when I rediscovered slot car racing when I was in high school, because as I said, my earliest exposure to it was, before kindergarten.
Yeah.
So I kind of moved on from it, to Nintendo. But when I rediscovered it, even then, even though I was, 13, 14 when I started playing with slot cars again, I saw 132nd and I said, yeah, but HO is the thing I know. This is I remember playing with this when I was when I was a kid, and now I want to play with it again and get into it more seriously.
So there's really your 3 levels: figure 8, big block battlers, and international 18. So to my knowledge, the only people making HO layouts is Tomy, which you should absolutely buy, great product, or what is it called now? Take-Two, the new Johnny Lightning brand. They make a knockoff Tomy track. So it's compatible with Tomy because Tomy never patented their track.
Right. Oh, that's amazing because it works so much better than almost every other HO track system, and yet nobody ever copied it.
Yeah. So
even though they could have.
Auto World copied it.
Yeah.
And those tracks are okay. Those cars are a little maintenance heavy.
Yes, they are.
They're okay if you are older and you're buying it for yourself. You could save a little bit of money. Those are only about $150 each.
Yeah.
But the cars are not nearly as well built.
The cars are the Johnny Lightning or Auto World.
They're normally the specialty chassis. They're normally the 4-gear.
So they're derivatives. I mean, they're basically knockoffs of the AFX Magnatraction chassis from the 70s.
And what's even worse than that is you're not going to get an adult set. So all the sets we've been talking about by Tomy have race cars.
Yeah.
Normally Formula or okay, we'll call them Indies. They're Indies.
It's they
have Indies.
Yeah.
But with Auto World, it's always some sort of gag. So it's always Scooby-Doo or Ghostbusters or Batman or Dukes of Hazzard. Hold on, I gotta Google more images. Or
they made a Tycho-esque number of gimmick sets and cars. I mean,
they didn't have any actual gimmicks though. They didn't have, the Jurassic Park with the dinosaur. They didn't have. Oh, geez, what was that? Not the Road Warriors, because Road Warriors was the one I couldn't think of last time.
Right.
Not Mad Max, which turned into that robot thing that I put in anyway because it's just so cool.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, they've made so many movie tie-ins, and it's funny because it's like, if you're listening to this, even if you went to YouTube and were desperately looking for content about slot car racing, there's a chance that you didn't know that this brand existed, and yet here they are spending money on movie tie-ins.
Movie tie-ins, TV tie-ins. They once did a tie-in with a certain magazine. I'll have to look up what the magazine was, but they did an entire line of cars, of just the cars that were on the magazine.
Really?
So, I mean, it was all random issues from the 60s, too.
Oh, okay. So it was Hot Rod or...
Yeah, it was definitely Hot Rod or something.
Yeah, it was probably either Hot Rod or Motor Trend if they were going back to the 60s.
And what's even better than that is Johnny Lightning has a nasty habit of not only doing the cars in relative correct colors, but then they do what's called white lightnings.
Yes.
And nowadays they're called eye wheels because they can't call them white lightning because they're not Johnny Lightning.
Right, because the Playing Mantis, Polar Lights, whatever the hell they're calling themselves this week, bought the Johnny Lightning trademark. If you don't remember Johnny Lightning, it was the worst version of Hot Wheels.
The Mega Blocks of Hot Wheels.
Yeah, it was, yes. Johnny Lightning is to Hot Wheels, I suppose, as Mega Blocks is to Lego. Although, to their credit, Johnny Lightning sponsored 2 Indy 500 winning cars, both driven by Al Unser Sr., whereas Hot Wheels only got as far as sponsoring Kyle Petty. So, kudos to you, Johnny Lightning. You did something right in your first life.
So those sets are okay, but they're really gimmicky, and they're not the best. And I'll put a picture of the controllers up that are meant to either be used as, like, trigger controllers or thumb controllers. They look like some sort of alien larva.
They're worse than the packing controllers from AFX?
Oh, yeah. They're 1,000 times worse than the pack. And Auto World also has a ton of, which I guess is kind of a subsection, and we talked earlier, and I might as well bring it up now, that you really want to be buying a slot car track for somebody who's like 10.
Yeah.
That's really the minimum age, is 10 years old. But if you're buying a slot car track because you want a slot car track in your house, but you got to buy it for your kid, Johnny Lightning does make an entire line of drag sets.
That's true.
And a drag set is not a slot car track, it is a toy.
Yeah.
And that does make a good toy because you can buy whatever car you want for it.
Right.
They all work, and it's not slow down for turns, it's push button go.
Right. How does the drag set like stop you in any way?
So yes, the drag set at the very
one.
beginning has the Christmas tree lights.
Right.
So it has 2 modes, which is 1, 2, 3, go, and then it has professional mode, which is where all 3 lights blink, so you can't time it.
Okay.
So it goes blink, 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 and then go. It does call foul, so it has a sensor. So if you go too soon, you get fouled.
Okay.
And then at the end, it has another sensor that lets you know which side won.
Okay.
And me and Kevin have done a lot of testing on this to see if it defaults to one side, if it is the exact same time.
Yeah.
And it doesn't. It's whichever is technically faster is always going to get it.
Okay.
It's not like if you take a sheet of paper and keep pushing it forward, it'll always go left or right.
Right.
It seems to be pretty even.
Okay.
And what they do is at the end of it, they have a piece of track with no rails in it.
Oh, okay. So that's
what you have is you have a piece of track with no rails in it, and then after that you have like a 5-inch or something, so the magnets grab.
Right. Okay. That makes sense.
And then at the very end, it does have a give up piece that just lets you go.
Yeah. Okay.
So the drag sets are good for young kids. You'll also find those drag sets in like Bass Pro Shops and Snap-on Tools and Kiss. Kiss had a drag set for reasons I'll never understand.
Really?
Yeah, Kiss had a drag set and they had trucks. Gene Simmons will put that name on everything.
Yeah, every kid wants that. Every kid wants to fight over who has to be Ace Frehley. I think that's the
I think the drag set did come with 4 cars too.
Wow.
That was like $150 that set.
Yeah, wow.
And normally like a drag set's $100 and it's a real easy sell if you have young kids. Now, what if you go online and you find an old Lifelike set, or God forbid you find an old Tyco set, or you find like a Skeletrix Micro set, and it's really cheap because it's discontinued? Should you buy it? I've always been of the opinion of no.
I'm going to say no, only because if you decide you really love this and you want to make the track longer,
you're going to have to start over again anyway.
Well, let me tell you a little story. And first of all, I'm still just imagining like Gene Simmons, like when you buy the Kiss Johnny Lightning drag set, like just a hole opens up in his wall and 35 cents falls out. And he's like, oh, somebody bought the set. Let me go sing another chorus of I Am Mindy, the song that I was paid to write to promote the IndyCar series. Because that happened. Oh, yes, that happened in 2007 or so, at a low point in the history of everything. What the hell was I talking about? Oh, yeah, so let me tell you a little story. Part of why I rediscovered slot car racing during the awkward years transitioning from middle school to high school was that I had a friend who got a Lifelike set from Target for his birthday, and we then set about expanding this track to the point where it was an affront to God himself, and you had to step over this track to get into his room. It was just everywhere, and you were constantly tripping over it and kicking stuff. Well, we started making almost daily trips to NJ Hobby to just buy track, because this was the kid whose house you went to play because he had everything. So, when we got tired of fighting over N64 or whatever system we were playing that day, he actually had he had all his game consoles hooked up to a clapper so that if he was losing, he could clap and he wouldn't be losing anymore.
Or if a plane went overhead.
Or if you just started yelling at each other because you were playing a game. Yeah, that would happen too. Good times. But we started making almost daily trips one summer to find out what more track we could buy. And what we quickly found out in those days, he started out with Lifelike track, which there was a limited range of parts for Lifelike track to begin with. So it was, okay, well, here's an adapter to go from Lifelike track to Tomy. Here's another one to go from Tomy to Aurora AFX with the slide lock, which we ended up just buying every gimmick track we could find and adapting it
AFX
to fit.
did have a lot of gimmicks tracks.
Yeah, the drift track.
Or the one that had a spring for the rails so you could flex track.
That's right. Yeah.
Which, by the way, running your pickup shoes over the equivalent of a zipper, not good for their longevity.
No. That was probably developed by the replacement parts division. Look at all the pickup shoes we're selling. At any rate, so we basically were starting with abandonware even then and adapting it to work with something else. So don't do that to yourself. I mean, you can find the adapter pieces probably, but it's just annoying. So I would say start with AFX because
it's really the only game in town these days.
Yeah, and you can probably find the adapters if you are desperate. If you're on eBay, you find the Tycho jump track or whatever, you can adapt from Tycho.
You want to put in your Haunted Highway piece. You want to put in the Lifelike railroad piece.
Oh,
in case you want HO trains.
Right.
Which everyone always says, we're going to do this, and then no one ever does.
Well, first of all, it's not to scale. I mean, they both say HO, but the trains are actually half O, which means they're 187 scale. And the cars, depending on what car you have, are anywhere from 172nd to 164th.
Yeah.
So, the first time you hold a car up to a train, you're going to be like, oh, this looks ridiculous. So, yeah.
So that is HO in a nutshell. Why don't we talk about something we actually want to talk about, which is 132nd.
Yeah.
So, again, there's a million ways you could do this. You could buy a Ninko track. You could buy an SCX track.
You could buy the off-the-rack track from Slot Mods, which Slot Mods is a company that, will build you whatever you want out of wood and incredible fully featured layouts, not just tracks. But I just noticed recently that they are now offering just an off-the-shelf track, which is just routed into a piece of wood. But it's something like $1,200 for a layout that you then can't do anything with. I mean, you might as well. Honestly, I'm fascinated by it because I would love to have a routed track without doing any work. But that's still a lot of money for something that is totally not scalable. Like, you have it and that's it. I mean,
that's all routed tracks.
Yeah. Well, that's true. Yeah.
And that's a different story. If we want to talk about routed tracks, first of all, that's not a Christmas gift. That is a commitment to never leaving your house.
That's work for you, which is why I didn't go that route, because I don't like doing work.
But, I mean, long story short, it really boils down to buy a Scalextrics if your basement is not damp and you don't, say, live in New Jersey.
Right. If you don't live in a damp climate in general, you can get away with that.
And then there's Carrera, which we like to make fun of their cars a lot, but their track is actually pretty good.
Yeah, it's all right. It's a little bit... I mean, let me just give you a caveat as I, again, look over at Best Track Ever. Because Carrera track is scaled for 1/24th scale cars, it takes up a lot of room. So if you want to build a long layout in a small space, it's going to get annoying. I mean, it can be done. I gave up on it and settled for a fairly short layout. But even smallest radius curves that they make are broader than the second radius of Scalextric. So.
And even a small Carrera track will sit in like a 10 by 10 area.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking over. That is, yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I bent over backwards to make it as compact as possible, and that's about an 8 by 12 area.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, A, with 132nd, you're going to end up with a lot more room, and B, even the starter sets are pretty vicious as far as size is concerned.
Yeah, I think that started its life as a, whatever the Carrera set, that's the Corvette and Cobra.
Like Screaming Oldies or something like that.
Something like that, with the tires that have raised white letters on them that say Decent Decade.
Yeah, because they didn't want to pick Goodyear.
Yeah. I caught a glimpse of the Decent Decade on the John Player Special Beetle.
Really?
Yeah, in the last episode. I had forgotten about Decent Decade, and then while I was vomiting at the sight of that car, I also noticed the tire.
I was going to say, you've just doomed yourself for me having to get another picture of it.
Yeah, that's true.
But I'd say 132nd sets start around about $150, but you really don't want to spend anything under $200. A $300 set is like, for analog, is a really, really nice set. It's nice and big, it's 2 lanes.
Right.
First of all, with the cars of a set, if you're just starting out, get the ones you like.
Yeah,
you're not going to run them for very long anyway, as you will learn.
Yeah, because whichever track brand you go with, I mean, you're going to get Scalextric cars or Carrera cars, which means they're going to be fine for about half an hour, and then you're going to get sick of them. So,
yeah, I mean, back in the day, Scalextric's cars used to be good, but not so much anymore.
No, they're not what they once were. I mean, then again, if you've never raced a slot car before, you're going to love it because you have no preference. So you're going to say, "Oh, this is slot car racing." I'm glad I invested in a hobby that I had no concept of. I don't know why you would do that, but hey, great.
We've had people do it, and again, anywhere between $150 and $300 for an analog set is pretty good.
Yep.
For Scalextrics, as you spend more money, you get more track. With Carrera, you get more gimmicks. Yeah. And then there is digital.
Right.
Digital is its own monster. First of all, take any price of any track and double it right off the bat. Benefits of digital are pretty quick, which is you can run more than 2 cars on 2 lanes.
Right. And you can change lanes, which adds a little bit of interest to it. If you're running on a small layout, it gives you a little bit more variety than just running the same lap over and over again.
What we learned at NJ Hobby, though, is it's just chaos.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you really need a massive layout to get anything out of digital, which contradicts what I just said. But even on a pretty big layout at the store, it's like it was just too much to think about to me.
I don't even think it was too much to think about. I think we used a ton of the lane changing areas.
Yeah, so that we had too many lane changes available.
I don't know if it was that. I think there wasn't a good enough secondary racing line. I think the turns were too tight.
That might be.
If the turns were a little more wide, I think the racing lines could have been a little bit more debatable, or at least a little bit more compatible.
Yeah, because on the layout we had, you basically just wanted to be on the outside of every turn.
Yeah.
So you could go faster.
Yeah.
You weren't making up any time by using the inside lane because you had to slow down so much. So basically, if you were coming up to a right turn, everyone wanted to be in the lane that was on the outside of that turn. And then when so the only interest that emerged from that was like, oh, I'm trying to change lanes, but somebody's in my way. So
yeah, and like getting bumped in the butt a lot was issue causing.
Right.
But the Scalextric's digital system is very, very nice. It doesn't have as many toys as the Carrera digital system does, but it's a lot more open, so you have more of a chance to get non-Scalextric's cars
right,
in
because
it.
you can chip any car, basically, to run on Scalextric.
I mean, in theory, you can chip any Carrera car, too. It's just
right.
stupid and
well,
hard.
Because, yeah.
It's terrible.
But the point is, like, if you wanted to run Slot.it on a digital track...
Oh, they even make their own chip, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can do that. You can chip a Nico car or whatever to run on Scalextric. The Carrera digital setup does not work with anything else.
Not even its old digital setup, Pro X. Oh, I'm loving the fact I get to put a Pro X picture on this screen right now.
Yeah, and you can X it out. That's what the X is for, because it doesn't work.
They stuck with like $3,000 worth of stock.
Yeah.
They just discontinued it one day, and they're like, well, if you still have it, too bad.
Yeah, because it's not going to be compatible with anything ever again.
Yep.
Yeah. That's,
Yep.
That's great. It's great when companies, respect their dealers and customers so much.
Scalextrics used to be really good back before Amazon was big. Scalextrics used to really protect their prices.
Yeah.
So if you were giving a discount on Scalextrics, they would stop selling Scalextrics to you.
Yeah.
But then Amazon became a thing, and that policy kind of flew out the window.
Well, yeah, because that didn't work anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, but now let's go ahead and talk about something a little bit more fun, which is what do you buy a slot car racer if they already have a set?
Well, I mean, yeah.
Well, you buy them cars, which is
pretty much, yeah.
a lot more fun than sets are a necessary evil.
Yeah, I mean because it would be kind of crazy. Although, it's kind of crazy to try to start with loose track to build,
and a lot more expensive.
And a lot more expensive. I mean, the best way to get a lot of track as a starting point is to just buy a set. But the thing is, if you're planning on doing any racing, really, you're going to end up wanting to eventually replace the power supply.
Literally everything.
And then, the purpose of replacing the power supply is so you can use good controllers, because the set controllers are never really very good. So you end up just basically cannibalizing the set for the track. I mean, that's why it's a necessary evil, because it's the cheapest way to get your baseline level of track into your house.
your X number of full straightaways, whatever full is, and your brand.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, I mean, so then, yes, for the slot car racer in your life, they probably would appreciate some new cars. And there's plenty of cars out there.
I mean, I'm totally okay recommending specific things.
Yeah.
Most things by Slot.it are going to be amazing.
Yeah.
What is that one Porsche?
The 962/956.
Yeah. Really, any of those are going to be fun. Even if you leave the magnet in.
Yeah, well, I showed up to race both, all by my lonesome.
All by my...
Yeah, that was good times. Couple of random customers. It took me back to my Saturdays that I used to burn in the store racing with Kevin, except I wasn't even racing with Kevin. It was just me. And random people were coming in and they're like, oh, that looks fun, when I watched somebody else do it. And I was like, yeah, well, I'm glad you're having fun, because I'm just trying to practice my cars in case somebody shows up to race. But yes, with or without magnets, those are pretty good. I mean, the whole Group C series from Slotted are pretty good in general. If you buy the Jaguar, it's going to be tempting to leave those wheel covers on because it looks so cool, but don't, because you're going to want to push the wheels out. They're really good looking cars. The Group C cars in general.
They are really what the evolution of Fly should have been.
Yeah.
Fly started out as about a $40 car, and they were the best looking car on the market, pretty much. There was really no one else doing what they were doing, and they were running good.
And they had a really good variety of cars, too, that nobody else had. They were doing 60s and 70s sports cars. They were doing some Can-Am cars and actual Can-Am cars, not just open-top sports cars that we call Can-Am cars. They did the Ferrari Daytona that nobody else did. Fly they really did a great job of, incorporating as many different styles of cars as they could think of. And
they all look good and they ran well. And then Slot.it kind of took over the torch when Fly decided to have just a conniption on the floor.
Yeah.
And everyone kind of, their new name of their company is literally Madness. So let's not look too far into that, and let's talk about good slot cars again.
Yeah, so, pretty much all of the Slotted Group C cars run well enough that you can actually run them against each other.
And the Slotted DTMs.
Yeah, the DTM cars are actually a lot of fun. They came out with the Alpha 155, 156, whatever that is, last year. And now they've come out with the Opel... some kind of Opel.
It's on the screen. Everyone at home can see it.
Yes. And I guess they'll be doing more DTM cars.
I have to assume, since they've been successful.
And that's pretty much,
that's how all of their lines start. They always start out with the one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the first car Slotted did was the Audi R8R, right? The closed-top version of the Audi R8. And it's funny because it took them forever to do the Audi R8 that we know. The R8R, so the first year Audi went to Le Mans, they weren't sure whether they wanted an open top or a closed top car because the rules were kind of in flux at the time. So they went with the R8C for coupe that was run by their British factory team, and the R8R for roadster. So actually, I'm sorry, the slotted one was the R8C, the closed top one. The R8R for roadster was run by their German factory team, which at the time was Yost Racing, which has been a Porsche factory team at times, and now is a Mazda factory team. They discovered that the R was more successful, and then they came back the next year with a totally different car, a totally different open cockpit car, but that was now called just the Audi R8. So Slotted, a few years later, came along doing the R8C. Didn't really do more LMP cars for a couple of years. They jumped from the R8C into the Group C cars, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, they started out with the Sauber C9 and Porsche 956, and then they went from there. And they did, they've done 7, 8 different cars altogether. The Nissan RC90, Toyota 88C, Sauber C9. I said they did the Jaguar XJR9 and the Lancia LC2. So they covered a lot of ground there, and all of them are in a number. They did the Mazda 787 as well. There's a ton of different liveries for most of them. Not so much the Mazda, because that would only ever ran as a factory car. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot out there, and you can relive the 80s. Because that's what I do.
Yeah, I realize they might not be the most exciting cars to pine over if you're not big into racing from that years, but like, we have kids who were not alive during that era racing these cars and having a ball with them.
Yeah, I mean, they're a ton of fun to drive regardless, even if you're not nostalgic for that era in racing, as I am, horribly. But I mean, those are the cars I grew up thinking of as like, this is what the future looks like, basically. I mean, if you don't, I'm sure Brian has put some of them on the screen for you by now. Try to picture being a kid in the late 80s and just looking at these cars that look like spaceships. I mean, they really captured the imagination of kids back then. And just the way they drive now as slot cars is fun, no matter what kind of cars you like to look at in real life. I can't recommend them enough, regardless.
Yeah, and there's also the GT40 by Slot.it, which is very nice.
Which doesn't really have a companion from Slot.it.
It doesn't. It has NSR, which we might as well talk about them now, too.
Sure, yeah.
NSR is going to be the most expensive option. Mm-hmm. There's arguments to be made about, are they better than Slot.it, or is NSR better? Because I don't want NSR in my inbox, I'll leave it vague.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on what you're going to do with it. I mean, you can make an NSR... You can probably get faster if you start with an NSR than if you start with a Slot.it in some cases.
In some cases, yeah, but like the Slot.it GT40 versus the NSR GT40 is...
Yeah, well, that's a... Yeah.
Or the Slot.it GT40 versus the NSR 917. Or the Slot.it GT40 versus the Allen Man. Or the Slot.it GT40 versus the Mark IV.
Or versus my Fly Frankenlola, for that matter, because I have an NSR motor that it still gets toasted.
Yeah. So, and the same thing happened with the LMPs.
Oh, that's true, yeah, because...
NSR did make an Audi R10.
They made an R10 and an R18, which then Slot.it came along and made both of those.
Significantly better. Give or take that front end, Slot.it.
Did Slot.it make an R10?
They made an R8.
They made an R8 and an R18, but the R18 is the one-to-one comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, NSRs are nicer to look at in some cases.
They're nice. They are like the only cars that are not just made in China these days.
Yeah.
They are still made in Italy.
You can definitely appreciate the craftsmanship in NSRs in that the gears mesh really well out of the box most of the time, which even Slot.its, which are good cars out of the box, don't consistently have that level.
Slot.it switched to plastic in a lot of their stuff, which doesn't help.
Right.
And meanwhile, NSR is still like milling everything.
Yeah. Exactly. But yeah, you're right. I mean, Slot.it ships cars mostly with plastic gearing now. So if you of the major brands, if you wanted to buy something and look at it and say, "Oh wow, look how much work went into this," then NSR is probably still your best bet on that front. If you just want something to admire.
And that NSR Mosler is a beast.
Yeah, that is an excellent car to begin with.
Yeah, I have an orange one I'll put up on screen now. I think it's a Dutch racing team because it's bright orange and I love it. I would recommend, though, if you are buying NSR, they do come in both Sidewinder and Angle Winder.
Right.
If you are racing magnetless, get the Angle Winder. If you are racing magneted, I've always gone for the Sidewinder. It's just lighter.
Right. Yeah, it's just a lighter setup. If you're not relying on the motor to give you weight distribution, then you might as well go with the Sidewinder.
Yeah, and you don't want to buy an HO Racer parts because a lot of parts in, not so much HO, but in 132nd are deadly specific to the car you're working on.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and if you're out there hoping somebody's going to buy you parts for Christmas, please, for the love of God, just tell them what you want specifically. You don't just be like, "Oh yeah, buy me slot car parts," because nothing is going to be what you want it to be, and nobody who's not you knows what the hell you're looking for.
Hey, I've gotten you some silicone tires. Are they for the right hub?
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that if you had the wherewithal to find this and listen to it, then you have the presence of mind to realize that most people don't know what slot cars are, let alone what you want for your slot cars. But, just in case you're not too bright, let me just throw it out there. You need to be specific, because if you say, "Buy me slot car parts," you're just going to get disappointed.
Or, there's always the NJ Hobby gift card.
Yeah.
Printed on an inkjet printer. Yep. On yellow paper.
On yellow paper. Although one time I got one that was on green paper. Very exciting.
Really, the part that makes that worth money is my dad's initial.
Yeah. That's true. Fortunately, it can't be forged by anyone. So
yeah.
that's revenue protection right there.
If somebody was going to run a gift card scam, I don't think NJ Hobby would be the target. I already get held up behind those guys and ShopRite way too much.
Yeah.
What do you mean I can't buy $1,000 worth of gift cards on this credit card?
This is definitely my credit card and not just one that I found.
That's why I'm getting gift cards for Dunkin' Donuts, Starbucks, Uber, Netflix, Xbox.
In extremely high denominations.
Yeah.
Yes, of course I need a $500 gift card to Dunkin' Donuts. All my friends love donuts.
Well, I think we nailed all of our last minute references.
Yes.
Check them off the books. I think that's a good place to kind of wrap this episode up. A nice, relatively quick one, medium length episode on the Buying Guide 2017, or you can listen to this a year from now.
Yeah, because we didn't name any specific products, so yeah.
Well, we didn't name any specific products because, truth be told, with slot cars, you're kind of going to get what's around.
Right, exactly. You're going to find what you find. Even if you're trying to buy them online, you're not going to find everything all the time. It's such a small industry, and when I say, even if you're shopping for them online, don't go on Amazon and be like, "There's only 4 slot cars in the world," because no, there's more than that. You're just not going to find that many of them on there. So
thanks you guys for coming along with the ride for us today. As always, remember to like, comment, and subscribe on the videos to let us know if you like what you're doing, if you don't like what you're doing, if you're Kevin and you'd really like to be part of the next recording.
And you know what? I just had a thought. If you really love your friends, then you will buy them BTE merch for Christmas, because they'll be like, "What the hell is this?" And you'll say, "I love you, buddy. Here's your shirt."
Here's your shirt that has a meme on it. Because in our BTE page, we don't actually just have any pure BTE branded merch.
Currently, there are 2 products, and they're both just random. They're memes that we don't even touch on in the show, so not much at least. But if you are Danny and you buy Best Stuff, you will buy the Danny Buys Best Stuff shirt.
Okay, I think that's a good point to end, because I have a project now I have to edit and add some funny pictures to this and make it humorous. And Mike, you should really design some new shirts.
Yeah, probably. Maybe I'll get on that.
Right. Bye, everyone.